These ones are the Shure MV7X.
Yeah.
And I think they're like 240, something like that.
Yeah.
They're not expensive. I think that they sound great.
They sound really good, yeah.
Because like the only one above this is the Shure SM7, which like it looks like this, but with like an extra inch on both ends.
On both ends.
Of
bigger's better.
Bigger is better. Well, it's like the industry. It's the one that like you'll see Joe Rogan use.
Sure.
It's the and that microphone is only $500 new. And it's like an industry standard vocal.
Well, you can get a used one.
Well, and that's the beauty is the beauty is the podcast like industry or whatever you want to call it has like dropped the price of those microphones. Before podcasts, those mics you would see on the used market, they would still be like $400. If you saw one for $300, you would like jump at it because you could resell it and make like $100.
Now you can get it for like $250.
Yeah, you can get them for like $300, something like $250, something like that. Very attainable.
Nice.
But they're gain hogs.
Oh, okay.
So like a lot of interfaces like this one don't have enough juice. So it's like you'll get like a lot of noise before it gets loud enough.
Right.
Where a lot of them get this thing called the cloud lifter, where it's basically like it'll use the phantom power and like add like an extra 10 dB or something like that to make up for the difference. So anyway, I think they're a fine choice. You'll see them everywhere.
I think I can hear it now.
Yeah, you can hear they're pretty neutral. I just like to set a timer just to make sure like we're in and around an hour.
Sure. You don't want to do a 3-hour like Rogan-esque podcast?
I don't know.
Little Theo Vaughn, we can throw in some just like wordplay.
I don't know if anybody is interested in a 3-hour podcast for me just yet.
No, maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe not for me either.
Yeah, I'll do a quick start. Hey everybody, welcome to Half Hearted. My guest today, Toronto comic Mike Payne.
Hey everybody.
So what's going on with you, man? Good to see you. It's been a while.
Been a little while, yeah.
Yeah, you're.
Since,
are you back on tour?
Not right now. I'm going back in April. April and May are taken up with the East Coast.
Okay, where are you going on the East Coast?
Well, we're making our way so my boys are flying into Toronto from Calgary and Winnipeg. And then we are going through, like, we're going to stop in Cornwall, and we're going to go to, I can't remember the name of the town in Quebec, and then New Brunswick one, and then we're doing a bunch in Nova Scotia. We're going to do Halifax, of course. We're going to do Yuk Yuks there. And then we're headed to PEI and Newfoundland, and then back through to Moncton, I think we're hitting, and then a couple stops on the way, like we're going to hit Montreal on the way back. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
it's 33 dates in 5 weeks.
33?
33 dates
wow.
in 5 weeks.
Is this your most consecutive dates in a row?
This will be the big one, yeah. It's almost like
this is like a solid
one.
Yeah, like this seems like a real because a lot of times you'll see myself included. Yeah. So like on tour and it's like a show or two a week,
or they're doing spots.
Yeah, or they're just doing. Well, I wouldn't call that a tour. That's not like not an organized.
No, this is all cold calling.
No, but you set up like a real multi-date, multiple days in a row kind of tour.
Yeah, we did 3 last year. And that was 43 dates over the 3. The last one was only 4 dates, but we made the most money per date.
Yeah.
But yeah, we did 23 in 28 days. Back in May, we went out west. We did what did we do? We started in Manitoba. We only did one in Manitoba, in a place called Minnedosa, Manitoba. Nobody's ever heard of, really.
I want to talk about touring in Canada.
Yeah.
Because I think for yourself, you're an independent working comedian.
Yeah.
Touring in Canada, is it possible to make a living doing this?
I mean, I think it's possible. I'm only making like half my living at it right now, and it's not a great living to begin with.
Okay.
But it's like for us doing last year was until the last tour last year, which was only 4 days. That was just establishing ourselves in different places and building our network, right? Like this year, we're going to have a lot more tours that are shorter and just the sweet stuff.
Yeah,
essentially, and you make a lot more money per tour. I think if you mix that with some other things, you'll make more money. But I don't really want to do other things. I don't really want to act that much.
What do you mean? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, you're saying as a con. Well, so this I knew.
Yeah.
Because this is the kind of disconcerting thing that I learned when I started doing comedy in Toronto, which is the fact that like no Toronto comic is able to make their living by performing comedy at night for people.
Well, it's
Like,
no
they-
Canadian comedian, really.
Yeah, so no, okay, so no can, well, and if you're the Toronto comic not being able to do it, then surely that would probably extend to the rest of Canada. not to be arrogant on the Toronto people, but
well, you do make more money outside of Toronto.
Oh yeah, well,
Yeah.
but they have to supplement through acting in commercials or acting on TV shows or writing on a TV show or writing. You have to do other voice acting or something like that. So to a Toronto comic doesn't earn their living just by performing at night. They have to supplement with other things.
Unless they're if they don't leave, you definitely do have to do that. Unless you're a select few who are the chosen ones and you get all the good stuff, and I'm sure very talented as well.
I'm sure, but I feel like those people, it doesn't last very long. And the people that it has happened for are people who kind of made a break in the U.S. and now are kind of back and staying here and making it like I feel like it's people who got famous in the old system.
Sure. In the old system, I mean, in the States they have sort of a star system, so it helps a lot. Plus, everything being so much closer together, like larger places closer together, makes life a lot easier for a comedian. In Canada specifically, you're traveling long distances at exorbitant expense. Luckily, two of us have a car, so we have a car to go to in a couple different spots in Canada. So Ontario and in Alberta, and we can go from there. But I'd say that my mind in terms of making money in comedy in Canada goes towards recording and being on certain services to be able to make residual income from your jokes. Like a lot of times people will tell jokes and get them to a certain place and then abandon them, and they haven't recorded them or anything else, so they're just sitting there and they're not making you money because you're investing in yourself when you're doing this, right?
Yes.
You're investing in yourself by, working on your craft, creating jokes, which is the product.
Yes.
And then hopefully marketing that product. And unfortunately, the one thing that we can't avoid is being our own agents, essentially.
Yes.
Learning how to produce a little bit better, learning how to take pride within the producing as well, because I don't know about you, but I don't do anything I don't really want to do.
Well, I've been kind of doing stuff I don't want to do for a little bit, and now I'm kind of in a place where I'm like, it was actually funny. Nitish said this to me like a couple months ago. He's just like, why are you doing this if you're not having fun? Yeah. And I was in a place where I wasn't having fun.
Yeah.
And I'm like, like it kind of made me like take a step back to like kind of retool and refocus. Like, what do I want to do? Which is why I dropped my agent for doing commercials,
right?
Because I was putting in all these hours of work to do self tapes, leaving my actual day job to go do in-person auditions,
right?
Like taking up vacation time or hours to do that, and like kind of getting in trouble, like worrying about losing my actual job. And then you're doing all this work for something that 99% of the time is not going to pay off.
Yeah,
right. You're not going to get the part.
No,
right?
Most of the time you won't. I mean,
most of the time you won't.
Specific, or there's just so many people going for it, etc.
Yeah, and I have I have a job. I don't need the money, right? I think I started doing commercials because I thought it would kind of increase the profile of my stand-up, but it really didn't. I don't.
But what is your goal then? What do you want to go full time with comedy? Do you want to be a touring stand-up comedian? What do you want to do?
Yeah, like I would like to be able to. I would like to have a monetized podcast. I would love to be, somebody who does tours or goes out, who's booked on like weekends and makes money on weekends or something like that, and to do short tours. I think for me, having a wife and kids, I don't want to do this to the point where like I don't exist in their lives.
You're away all the time,
and where you're gone so much that you're. So I'd like to be able to call my own shots.
Remember your 8th birthday? Because I don't.
Yeah. Like luckily that hasn't happened, but I'm out 3 or 4 nights a week, and to me that feels like not enough.
Well, I mean, especially in Toronto, the whole drive is towards being out all the time.
Yeah.
Like when I first started here, I'm from Toronto, so I was lucky enough to be born in the place in Canada where things sort of happen.
Yes.
So I was out, every night of the week. I was doing multiple shows a night, and this is pre-pandemic.
Yes.
So it was actually probably more attainable then than it is now to a certain degree, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's more now than there was then.
I can tell you that it feels very hard in the city right now.
Yeah.
Right now it feels different. I've only been at it 2.5 years, and even for me, it feels different in the city. It feels like there's less available. It feels like everybody's mood is kind of like down at the moment, and I'm kind of, like you just said, focusing on out of the city, like getting out and doing, calling your own shots. Like if I want to do good shows, I want to be in front of people who want to be there and laugh and have a good time, and and get better at doing comedy. So if that means I got to go out of town and drive an hour, then I will.
I think about it psychologically. I mean, I think in Toronto, a lot of people were more or highly impacted by pandemic, and the psychological after effects haven't really been dealt with. Like a lot of people aren't in therapy dealing with stuff on the regular, and there's a lot more tension. Whereas smaller places didn't get hit as hard. There were certain places where they had a lot of cases. It doesn't really matter, but there was less emphasis on stay home in a lot of places, so there was less impact in that way, and so it's friendlier crowds. But I mean, small towns are always friendlier anyway.
So do you think people in Toronto really abided by the lockdowns more so than people in the suburbs or smaller towns outside?
I think it was easier to be shunned in Toronto because there's such high population density.
Yeah.
So your neighbors would see it, etc. There was more pressure to just stay home, and I think in smaller places, there were people who were just out doing stuff.
They just did it anyway. Yeah.
They probably did. And because, there were certain places in Canada where there were no cases. Mm-hmm. So why wouldn't you be out in those cases, right? Just logically.
You were saying that on your tour, you're with guys who are from Alberta?
So not originally. So Frank Russo lives in Calgary now, but he's only been there about a year and a half.
Okay.
He's originally from Brampton, of all places.
So, but he's a Toronto guy.
Sort of. He actually started comedy in Sudbury.
Okay.
And then he moved to Halifax and was there for a while, and then he moved to Toronto to try it out. But he's not super social in that way, like he doesn't do the networking thing as much as maybe myself, and wasn't from downtown, so he never really had that establishedness, I guess, downtown. He ran a show over at Broadview and Gerrard at one point in a little barbecue joint. I think it's still there, actually, this barbecue place. It's pretty good. That's one thing Toronto does have is pretty decent barbecue until you get to Calgary where he is now.
Yeah.
And then you realize that's barbecue. That's beef.
My wife went to Austin and she said, like, we have nothing.
It's nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah, it's nothing. So we've got a large variety of things though. So that's nice. Mm-hmm. But yeah, Frank lives there now. He's fit in really well and he really enjoys it. There's less opportunity for comedy, but they still have a pretty decent scene. And scenes essentially, especially Toronto, it's not a place to make money. It's a place to learn how to do comedy, in my opinion.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's a place where you go and you try your stuff, you throw shit against the wall and figure out what is going to work for you and what isn't going to work for you.
Okay.
And in some cases, you get recruited by clubs, etc. But I don't know. I find that really searching and pining for club spots is a lot of effort for very little payoff. Mm-hmm. In some cases, not to poo-poo any of the clubs, because we use them for our tour in certain areas. Like I was mentioning earlier, we're going to Yuks Halifax.
Yeah.
And we're happy to do so. We hit up Yuks in Calgary as well, and that was a great little spot. Above a casino.
Yes.
Really oddly marked.
Okay.
But, we figured out how to get up there. Whereas Scott Porteous lives in Winnipeg, is from Winnipeg, etc. So he's kind of like our middleman. He is without car, but he is 20 years in, so he does have a slightly wider network than some of us.
Did it take you a while to find the people to kind of like team up with and to do this?
I guess so. I don't think that I was specifically looking for this. Excuse me. I don't think I was specifically looking for this at the time. I was looking to tour, and I knew that Scott had toured, and I knew he toured with Frank, and I got along really well with Frank from here, and I knew that he'd moved out to Calgary. So it just kind of all made sense to bring it all together, because we can all headline in our own rights, and so we just do rotating headliner.
Yeah.
Every third day you're headlining, which is great exercise.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do longer and longer times.
Are you doing like a full 45?
In some cases, most of the time we do like half an hour.
Okay.
Yeah. Half an hour, and you can piece it together into something bigger anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've definitely cycled through more material than I have in Toronto even.
Okay.
Yeah. Because in Toronto, I found that there was a lot of pressure to do your best because
Yes.
then you get on more shows, etc. People see you doing your best rather than doing your best work because your best work would be cycling through things and trying things out, etc. In the open mic scene here, no offense to anybody running an open mic, but they're dead. They're not. There's no human beings there. It's only comics.
For a lot of them, yeah.
Yeah.
And they're almost not, which is why I'll do like a Zoom call with like a couple people to just like talk through material rather than go to an open mic. I think it's more efficient.
Yeah. Oh no, definitely. I think that's a really good way to do it. Open mics are interesting because it's the first way that you get noticed.
Mm-hmm.
So you are doing, you're cycling through jokes, but you're doing your best stuff so that you can get onto booked shows, right?
Yeah.
Booked mics, whatever you want to call them. And then you slowly work your way up to doing more pro shows and maybe doing some club work and everything else. But when you're going to the club, you're not cycling through your material unless you're already rostered.
Yeah.
And then you're going to their pro-am night and doing a spot, just trying out some new stuff.
Mm-hmm. But even a pro-am night, I feel a pro-am night at a real club, I feel like most comics will do their very best material because it's almost like an audition.
Well, that's what I was saying.
Yeah.
Unless you're rostered, right?
Yes.
If you're on the roster, then you'll do a couple poppers at the beginning. You'll throw some crap in the middle, and you'll end strong, right?
Yes. Yeah.
The shit sandwich method.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're starting in another place, like even Guelph,
Yeah.
their small shows, their open mics have audience members.
Yes.
They have people, whether they're brought by somebody, like a bringer brings, 10 people or whatever. Good luck with that. So most of the time, it's like 3 people.
Yeah, I don't have friends, so
yeah, neither do I. I don't know. I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
But yeah, the small places have more support because there's less things.
Yes.
Whereas here, for instance, tonight, like we're recording this on the 20th, you've got the UFC here. So my comedy bar show is competing with the UFC, is competing with whatever else.
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't want to spend $700 on a ticket, then you can come spend $25 on mine.
Yeah, exactly.
It'll be okay.
Yeah, it's Toronto, which is why the guys that I'm working with, we're trying to just do more shows out of town, get more time in front of better audiences, and then you can like try out a newer bit, and if it doesn't fly, then it's okay, right?
Oh, absolutely.
So just trying to spread my wings a bit and refocus.
You've done some Hamilton stuff.
Yeah, I love going out to Hamilton. Levity has been very, very cool to me and let me perform there. And
yeah, Pat's Club is good.
Oh man, I love it. I was they're doing a big competition show out there. Did you see?
Yeah, I saw that
for like the next couple months. So he's just like, yeah, you won't be able to like really come out and do spots till like March. I'm like, damn.
Yeah.
But good
they got
for
a
them.
few competitions going on right now. They've got this UFCC thing happening, where it's like mixed martial arts themed comedy, but it's a contest at the same time. I'm not exactly sure how it's going to work out. I signed up though.
Did you?
Yeah. Well, what the hell? Why not?
Yeah. I mean, I'm doing a competition show next week. I don't really like them.
No,
I feel like they put undue pressure.
Well, I mean, if you want to be an art purist, if you want to be an artist,
yeah,
then it's counter to what you would consider art, because art is something that you can't judge against other art.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and it's also just if you happen to be the person in the competition who brought the most people, you win.
Yeah, that's also another thing, but that's not different for like a painting competition either. It's all about who you have stacked against it.
Well, I mean, that's why
friends with the people who are making the decisions.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's why I feel for all the competitions that I think I've won a few, and I always feel grateful because I never bring anybody. So
right.
they're always honest wins.
Yeah. No, it feels good, right?
Yeah.
It's cleansing. In fact, the odds are stacked against you in those cases.
Yeah. So yeah, for those ones, I felt feel very 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 grateful. And I think especially when you're new, they're like, if you win, there's such like a shot in the arm that you kind of need to keep going.
Oh, for sure.
You were you were really eager to come on because you wanted to talk about, you have a connection to Christian Science.
I do,
which is like probably one of the off-Christian sects that I know the least about.
It was a short time in my life. When I was about 10 years old, I went for 2.5 years to the Church of Christian Science here in Toronto, and was brought in by my stepmother, my evil stepmother, and I left because there was one Sunday school class. I guess you call them classes.
Yeah.
Where the woman running it told us that gay people were bad. And my mom was out of the closet at the time.
Yeah, so which is odd. So your mom is a lesbian who's with another woman who goes to Christian
That's how
Science.
lesbians work.
Yes. But so
no, the other it wasn't her that went. So my dad had remarried after the divorce from my mother to a woman.
Oh,
yeah,
why did I think both your parents were gay?
They are.
God damn it.
So do you want the little Coles notes?
Yeah,
I've told it a million times.
Yeah, I know you have. I just I want to. Okay, so we'll park Christian Science because I want to talk about what it is.
Sure.
I want to understand what it is, so you have an interesting upbringing.
I do. It's a little bit different than everybody.
Yeah.
It's kind of isolating in that way. Very difficult because I was born in 1980.
Yeah.
And so the 80s were far less forgiving to homosexual people.
Yes.
And
so I thought you were going to say that the divorces were harder on kids, which I also would have agreed with.
Well, 2 of them in 5-year span is very hard on kids for sure. So my parents met at art school and married and had myself and my younger brother. And then they got divorced when I was 8.
Yeah.
My mom came out immediately.
Okay.
And she's been with her partner since I was 10. They were good friends before that, but and we knew her before that.
Okay.
And they're still a very strong couple to this day, so it's a very long-lasting relationship. And my dad married his second wife, who was my mom's AA sponsor. Very, very, very inappropriate.
That seems not very. There's a part of that doesn't seem very anonymous.
No, but they had a connection through CBC because my dad worked for CBC for 24 years as a designer, and she worked there as a set dresser. So they knew each other outside of it.
What did they work on shows I would know?
Street Legal. My dad worked on Fraggle Rock before that.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Fraggle Rock.
Was Fraggle Rock made in Canada?
Yeah, Fraggle Rock was made here on Sumac Street.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the now they're condos, I think.
Yeah, because I remember some of the cutscenes were like the what's his name? Gobo's uncle who goes out into the world, and he was like sent Gobo a letter, and he looked like he was in Toronto. I'm like, why would like a Jim Henson thing be in Toronto, right?
But I'll trust you.
Yeah. One of my favorite books growing up was called Where Gobo Goes When Gobo Goes Away.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it's about how like sometimes like Gobo just takes off to be alone for a little while.
Maybe he's an introvert.
I think he just has these moments where he needs to be alone, and then his friends like chase him down, and they almost get lost, and then he saves them.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was like I bought like an old copy off eBay to read to my daughters when they were little.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, that's one of the benefits of being a dad. You get to reinvestigate things from your childhood.
Oh, I mean, if it wasn't for having daughters, I don't think I read at all.
I mean, why would you these days?
Really, like I have read all of the Harry Potter books, all of the Chronicles of Narnia. We're on the cusp of reading the prequel Hunger Games book. Cool. Like we read The Hobbit. I think we've read some other ones. Like if it wasn't for having to read to them, this is a great premise for a joke, by the way. I love that this came up. But yeah, like I don't think I would read. Like what else would come up? Yeah, why
Nobody
would you?
does anymore.
Yeah.
You just listen. You listen to books if you really want to get into books or anything like that, and I don't even do that. I just watch TV.
The love for my daughters keeping me literate.
Keeping you literate. Yeah.
I appreciate that.
That's why I'm such a slow reader. I get it.
That's so funny.
So my dad worked at CBC for 24 years. They met there. They got together. They had my youngest son when they got married when I was 10.
So youngest son, you mean?
I'm sorry, my youngest brother.
Yeah.
When I was 10.
So you had like a half brother.
Yeah, a half brother. And I had a stepbrother at the time too because she had another son.
Okay.
From a previous marriage. Who I've just reconnected with recently. It's interesting.
Real blended.
Yeah, really blended. We're all white, but that's beyond that, it's pretty blended. Not my favorite marriage. It was really tough. But They split up when I was 13. My dad came out when I was 14.
Okay.
And my dad's been with the same guy, also named Mike,
Okay.
since I was 16.
Okay.
Yeah. So they've been together for many, many years. They've been married for 15 years now because it became legal.
So what did your dad say about that in terms of, because he gave it another shot with a woman?
Yeah.
And so did he just not really know, or
I think that it's interesting. I think that there's many ways that people come to the understanding that maybe they're gay, or maybe they're bisexual, or maybe they're just a person.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe you're just attracted to certain people. And we don't need to have these identities, right? I mean, identity is very zeitgeist right now, but it's, maybe take it easy on ourselves and not give a crap if they have a vagina or a penis.
I think I care very much, but
well, that's because you're insecure. But
if I wasn't so insecure, I'd have sex with more dudes.
Hey, I'm insecure too. That's why I'm so fun. Yeah. Maybe you would have more sex, more dude sex. Yeah, more man BJs.
Yeah, I'm good.
Nah, all right. Well, I experimented.
Well, the thing which is that's fine. I think I had a friend of mine who's on the more left leaning side tell me about how like studies between like male and female sexuality is that for males predominantly it goes one way or the other. If you're gay, you're gay, and if you're straight, you're straight. And then it's a small preponderance of people who are kind of in between. Whereas with women, their sexuality is far more malleable.
Well, I don't think it has anything to do with genetics, though. I think it has to do with societal pressure. Because the societal pressure.
I disagree.
That's okay.
Yeah. No, it's good. That's why we're here. We're not going to fight each other.
But I think societal pressure does teach men, moreover, and maybe it's changing now because society is changing. But I think it does push men to make a decision. And women, there was less pressure because I remember when my mom came out, there's less pressure to make a decision in that way. I remember when my mom came out, it wasn't a huge deal to grandparents, to her friends and everything else. But when my dad came out, he lost all his friends. He lost like the majority, I should say. He had one gay male, I guess, example in his life. And I could be a little wrong on this because I was only, 14 when he came out. But my dad's cousin Dan came out in the early 80s. And so he had that example there.
Oh, I know what happened to him. Like, I don't want, like, that's what your dad's saying. Like, I don't want to be like,
no, Dan. Just the way you did it. It's just like, oh, okay. I'll be sure not to do that. No.
Well, maybe it was like, that was the thing that kept, if your dad saw if your uncle got, cut off from excommunicated from the family. Yeah. And that's a real thing which is a real thing that can probably happen to you now.
We had a really hard time with his dad in particular, who just passed away.
Yeah. So your dad's like, well, if that's what's going to happen to me, I better keep this shit a secret.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that could have had an impact. But he was very much, from my observation, attracted to my ex-stepmother. I think that we put a lot of pressure on having these labels. And I don't think that they're always necessary. And maybe that's where the whole gender fluid and other things like that come from as well, is not needing to make the decision. And that's fine, whatever people want to do or not do, or, it's a non-decision for some people. I think it is a decision for some. I think that if we can think of a reason why people are the way they are, probably some people have that.
Yeah.
Yeah. As for my family, things started to settle down after my stepfather came into our family.
Okay.
Because it was 2 divorces in 5 years. I was a basket case. I was a really tough kid and teenager. I was the oldest. And, things started to settle down in that way, but I definitely wasn't okay with some of it for a very long time. I remember when my mom came out, it really didn't matter that much to me because I was 8, and it was just like, whatever, it's my mom, it's fine. And as long as she's happy. And then when my dad came out, I remember at the time having homophobic feelings. Yeah. That have obviously dissipated.
Yeah.
Mainly because it was, I think at that time, because I was 14, and you're just kind of becoming a guy. Yeah. At that point, or whatever you are. It was the example of sexuality for me. And I was very attracted to girls. Yeah. For the most part, or women, or female, whatever you want to call it. But also, I found myself subtly attracted to men too. but it wasn't on the same level. And I think at that age, there's a way that I confused it for, that feeling when you like admire a guy.
Yeah, I think I know what you're saying.
You just admire their physique,
or just acknowledging that you can perceive that another man is attractive. Like you can see, like, oh, like
that's a good looking guy.
Yeah, that's a good looking guy, right? And so you think being able to recognize that means that you're gay if you're a kid.
Well, yeah, because you don't know the difference. The subtle differences don't exist in your mind necessarily, depending on where you are in the developmental spectrum.
Yes. Okay.
Right. And so I think I figured out much later that I am attracted to men a little bit.
Okay.
And it's like the odd guy that I would be attracted to. Like I did experiment when I was younger. That was one of the freedoms that this situation, that my family situation brought. And so, I experimented and with a few different people and every once in a while now I feel attracted to somebody, but I do live my life as a heterosexual male. I do. It's much easier.
Okay.
It is much easier in terms of fearing people's reactions. Especially with, and this isn't like an ignorant statement towards immigrant people.
Yeah.
But I do find that people from other places are a little bit further behind, I guess, if you want to put it that way, ahead, behind, whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever it is in the cycle, in terms of their perception of homosexuality. And so my fear growing up there was, so to put it plainly, when after age 8, I had to come out to every single friend that I ever met if I wanted to hang out with them at my house. So I had to come out for my parents and say, oh, by the way, my mom's gay. I hope you don't mind.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And 60% of the time that meant that they couldn't come over because they were religious.
Yeah.
Or they were, from a culture that didn't appreciate that yet or still doesn't.
Well, I mean, there's so many... I feel like there's a few threads to go after there because, like, the first thing that comes to mind is the whole Bruce MacArthur thing. Ooh. Right? That serial killer in the gay village. Where it was like, but he was preying predominantly on South Asian men, right? Because they were doing it like super under the radar, even though they were here and had no family.
Well, he was probably attracted to those men too.
No, well, sure, but also it was easier to get. It would be easier to get away with it. They were less likely
shunned within their families. And
right. So they were more likely to be shunned. It was easier to get away with it because nobody knew where they were or what they were doing. And when nobody knows where you are or what you're doing, it means you're vulnerable.
But weren't they also mainly homeless men? Maybe I'm wrong.
I don't know if they were. I don't recall hearing that as a detail. Yeah.
Because people don't look for homeless people.
Yeah. No, of course, absolutely. And that's the thing though, is if you're here alone and you're on these, and that's just it though, is whether they're homeless or immigrated here and have no one. Right. You're alone, right? There's nobody watching out for you. And if you disappeared, no one would know. No. Right? And so...
That's scary.
Yeah. Right? It's... it makes you reconsider even just like moving, like how vulnerable you are without some sort of base, right?
Well, I keep that in mind when I move to because I'm very friendly. Yeah. And whenever I move to a new place, I know my neighbors, I know the people across the street and everything else. And I just enjoy that. Yeah. But beyond that, I know that it's safer.
Yeah. But it also reminds me of, so when I was, I would have been in my early 20s, I was a youth leader at the church that I met my wife at. And I was a small group leader with, I think it was like grade 11 or grade 12 boys. And my so small groups. I don't know if you're familiar with small groups in church. It's like in youth groups and stuff, it's small groups. It's like you and all the guys who are in grade 9 at the youth group. Like you guys meet. Right. You'll have like a youth leader who's like a mentor.
Okay.
And so I didn't know this. I did that as like I became a Christian my last year of high school, so I only did it for 1 year.
So you weren't raised Christian?
No.
Okay.
And then we can talk about that if you want. And then I became a youth leader because I wanted to help kids. And so this 1 year, my co-leader for our group was a gay guy who was at the time celibate.
Okay.
And
was it because he was religious that he was celibate? Okay.
Yeah. And so it came up to the group, like we said that, oh yeah, Neil's gay, but like he doesn't practice. And then like one of the guys in our group like mentioned it to his parents and they freaked out.
Right.
Freaked out. the church initiated this thing about like grilling him, how like basically trying to find out how gay are you and are you a threat to the kids?
Are you gonna make more gays? Yeah,
which was crazy because even at the time I was indignant about it because I was like, he's celibate, he's not seeing anybody. Meanwhile, I'm dating, not married. So like when it comes to the possibility of sexual sin, well, definitely it was me who would have been more at risk than him, and yet he was raked over the coals for it. It was I think the whole thing it was really unfortunate.
What sect are you in?
I mean, I don't think I wouldn't call myself part of any of them other than I was always under the evangelical Protestant umbrella. Yeah. But at the time that was a Baptist church.
Baptist.
Yeah.
Oh, that's very evangelical.
Yeah, but they're all a little different. So
I used to work with a guy who was evangelical and as a painter because that was one of my day jobs. And
was he a painter?
Yeah,
as like a house painter.
House painter, not artistic.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he would evangelize.
Yeah.
Every day and try to get me to be Christian, and I got further and further away.
Yeah.
From wanting to do that.
Oh yeah, I mean there are just some people who. And I hated it too. Like when I would go downtown and see the guys handing out tracts at Dundas Square and being like, ugh. Like there's parts of it that I always found culty. Because I wasn't raised in it, there were always parts of it I was not comfortable with.
The praise guy that's down there?
Is there a guy who just...
So there's a guy that's I grew up here. So
yeah.
I went to Central Tech and I lived in the East End, so we always used to walk part way home, and it would go through Yonge and Dundas a lot of the time. And since I was maybe 15, there was this guy who'd be like, praise, like out of nowhere, just like yelling, praise, bless. Like he would just say random words.
Yeah,
over the course of my high school years, he got like growths on his neck. He got these big, bulbous, like really gross looking things. And somebody pointed out that might be leukemia.
Yeah.
Because it's one of the things that happens. And I thought he was long gone, but like 3 weeks ago, I was down there, and the guy's still there.
Did he still have things
but his
on his
bulbous things are gone. Maybe it works.
Yeah, maybe
I don't know.
Maybe somebody got in there for. I mean, yeah, Toronto downtown Toronto, especially I remember that in the 90s remember wild. Like I remember there were people handing out tracts about the number of the beast. Or like don't get tattoos or something like that, because like that was the number. Like it was marking your skin, and there like if you even got a tattoo, you were for sure going to hell.
Oh yeah.
I remember that.
Your holy garment gone.
I was so having not been raised in it. It was like I was never. I can speak Christianese, but it's not my first language.
Right. You're semi fluent, but you're not native.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, not a native speaker.
Oh yeah, like there's cultural things like there was a Christian cartoon called McGee and Me. Okay. Like I never watched VeggieTales. Yeah, there was that superhero one, Bible Man.
What?
Yeah. Oh, you've never seen Bible?
No, man.
Oh yeah, Bible Man.
Why would I have?
He was like he was Batman-esque, but obviously way lamer.
Like he had a utility belt?
Yeah, but it was just the Bible.
Just pages from the Bible.
Yeah, he never hit anybody.
Yeah. No, the one in the back's toilet paper. But the rest are fine.
Yeah. So it was your dad's second wife that got you guys into Christian Science. And
she was in the Church of Christian Science, and her parent and step-parent, who we loved very much, were a part of this as well. And so it was just a nice thing for us to do. And there was the community aspect.
Yeah.
And, being part of a community was like, wow, I get to do something with other people. Cool. Mm-hmm. But yeah, there was a bunch of stuff I just didn't buy, even at that tender age.
Did you, before going to the Christian Science Church, did you have like a notion of God? Did you believe in anything, or was it just not really something you thought about?
I wasn't a believer. I think I drank the Kool-Aid a little bit when I was there, and I did start to believe in a higher power. And I sort of semi-do now to a certain extent.
What does Christian Science believe? Because I know that like mainstream evangelical or Protestant Christianity would not consider them part of the club. We would put them off to the side with Seventh-day Adventists, Mormons,
sure, I can see why.
Jehovah's Witnesses.
So they believe in practicing, which is prayer healing.
Oh, okay.
So they discourage you to go to the doctor for minor things. If it's major, they'll say go to the doctor.
Yeah, okay.
But no, they'll sit with you and they'll read verse with you, and there's no Quakery stuff where you're shaking and things like that. No evangelical side in that regard. But yeah, the prayer healing was a big piece of it, which is actually sort of science fact in a way, because psychosomatic effect has been proven at this point.
I mean, their medical miracles are some of the most common.
Yeah,
that where somebody is healed of something that they had yesterday.
Yeah,
like they don't like the cancer is miraculously gone through no intervention by a doctor. That does happen, which is crazy.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know whether that's religious or not, though. I think that our technology isn't there yet.
I'm not I was never the person who. This is one of the things in church that it never washed well with me, was the fact that whatever good happened, you're praising, God gets the credit no matter what.
Oh yeah,
right.
Oh yeah, that's a good thing. Maybe the universe gets the credit.
I don't know. It's just I'm
but it's part of us, and it's in us, and it's around us.
The universe
sounds like we're part of it.
No, we're in it right now.
Yeah, sounds like God.
It sounds when we say universe, it sounds like everything outside of Earth. That's the rest of it.
The multiverse. Let's make it bigger.
Oh man, I don't buy it.
You don't buy the multiverse?
No.
You don't buy quantum science or anything?
Well, no. To me, I feel like the multiverse is just a way for people who don't believe in God to have an explanation for things.
Right, but then there's another one of you in another part of the multiverse that does believe that.
I'm sure. I mean, but that means there's a universe where Scientology is true.
Yeah. Can you imagine that?
There's a real Xenu.
You got to pay a lot of money in that universe to get anywhere near God.
Crazy.
Yeah, Xenu, is it?
Xenu, yeah.
Xenu.
Yeah, the intergalactic overlord.
I love that. And the dude on the boat in the middle of L. Ron Hubbard?
L. Ron Hubbard.
Yeah.
It's
an anointed boat.
Yeah, I want to go to Clearwater, Florida, just to see all the Scientology stuff.
Oh, is that where it is? Is that where their museum is?
I think they've got a big place there.
But isn't their main thing in California?
They have one there too, but Clearwater, Florida is a big
open
one.
to the public in Clearwater?
I don't know if it's open to the public, but it's a hub. Like you're right, California, the Celebrity Center, that is a hub too.
Yeah.
But Clearwater, Florida is probably number 2, and I think they launch a lot of boats from there because they still do
Carnival cruises,
their fleets and stuff. Well, to get to OT 7 or 8, which is the highest levels that you can attain as a Scientologist.
Okay.
The way that you do it is you go on one of these, I think it's called the Free Winds. That's the main, or not the main, but it's the boat that you go, the cruise ship you go on to do OT 8.
Oh geez.
And so
hope they have good food.
When you've got slave labor, I bet you've got pretty good food.
Yeah, it really is slave labor, isn't it? But it's even more insidious because it's psychologically based.
Well, it's not just psychologically based. It's more sinister because in the U.S. because of is it the First Amendment, but because it's religiously associated, the government can't intervene to save you,
which is insane.
Which is crazy.
Yeah, I mean they got a few differences down there that are totally insane to me. Anyway. Not the gun part, but the rest of it. I'm
for the guns. I like the First Amendment for the free speech part.
That was almost an I'm for the gays. That was very close.
I am a fan.
I'm for the guns and the gays.
Guns and gays. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. See, why can't they be on the same team?
Yeah.
For some reason, I thought that Christian Science was the one that didn't believe in miracles.
No, they do believe in miracles, but they also believe in self-made miracles. And I guess it's just Christianity. It's a basic, almost Unitarian Christiantianity, but with an additional book. It's The Science and Health with Keys to the Scriptures by Mary Baker Eddy, who is the founder of Science, Christian Science.
Yes.
The big misnomer that I notice most people seem to associate is that it's Scientology related, but it's not.
No, that I know. No,
it's a totally different thing.
Nothing to do with it.
No.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Because she wrote, and it's got health.
Baha'i.
It's got health stuff in it. Is there dietary restrictions?
Dietary stuff if you want to follow it, but it's not required.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have some things.
But you found that you liked it. You liked the community part of it.
I did, and they seemed very open and accepting and everything else until that fateful day.
And then they said gays go to hell. Is that what they specifically said?
That was what specifically the teacher of that Sunday school class believed and preached. And the other kids in the class went, yeah, look, it's in the Bible, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And then I left and decided never to go again.
Yeah.
But I went back once because the head of the church was talked to by my step-grandmother about how that's not a reflection of the church. And he brought me in and spoke to me and apologized for who was his wife, the teacher of that class, that's not what we believe.
Oh.
That's just what she believes.
Oh.
And so I'm not sure whether other people within the organization believe that. It's individual, I guess.
I mean,
but she was teaching it, and that to me meant that there wasn't enough supervision.
Well, I would bet money that's what they believe.
Yeah, you think so?
It is even now. There are some churches who will embrace it, but for the most part, any mainstream evangelical Protestant church would say that, like, it's not a sin to be gay, but to engage in homosexual, to act on it would be a sin,
which is kind of awful in my opinion.
Well, it's just there's no way out of it. If you're straight, you can get married, right? And then it's a tough one.
Yeah, it's a really weird place to be in. But
most Christians don't care. At least, especially in Canada,
no, they don't give a
it's
crap.
Like they don't care, but it's in the book
as long as it's not in their face.
Well, yeah, that's the other thing. Yeah,
that's ridiculous. I heard someone once told me, they're like, well, what if you have natural feelings towards being a murderer? We know murder's wrong, but if it's your natural feeling, shouldn't you be able to act out on that? And they were comparing it to being gay. And I'm like, you're out of your mind. This is not a fair comparison. This is sexuality. That's psychopathy.
I think the argument that they're trying to make is that humans have a predisposition to sin in many different ways.
Right.
And just because our society says that homosexuality is okay now doesn't mean that it actually is.
Right.
That's what the Christian argument.
It's okay while it's legal.
Once it became legal, it's fine. Then there's some people who embrace that. I've seen it across the board. It's just tough because I find a lot of the gay affirming churches are wishy-washy with a lot of it. Like I remember, I think it was like the head of the United Church in Toronto, like was out atheist.
Right.
Like,
well, a lot. I've known Catholic priests because I did. I have a drug and recovery background myself, and as a addict, I encountered many priests in recovery.
Yeah,
and they weren't staff.
Yeah,
they were actually actively trying to recover themselves, and several of them told me that they're atheists.
Yeah,
they just live within this because it pays them, and it allows them to live the life that they've trained to do.
Yeah, well, it's and that's the hard part though is. Yeah, if you are in church leadership, you're a pastor or whatever, that becomes your life. Like, I know guys who, they believe in evolution, but not on stage, not on the pulpit when they're speaking to everybody. Like they believe in evolution in private, but will never publicly declare it. Or this is the thing that I believe that in the States would like be a big problem. Like I don't believe in the literal hell view,
right?
And so. Like I don't adhere to the traditional.
Do you believe in the living hell? Like if you do stupid crap in your life, that you're living hell.
No. I mean, like the first thing is I'm.
Like it makes your life bad.
I think that I've. Well, first of all, I think the Bible says that'll be the case. Like you can if Jesus forgives you for everything. I talked about this in the last podcast I had. Is like, if Jesus forgives you, he died for your sins, then you can everything is fine. Yeah. Right? Like he saves you from everything, so you can do bad things. You can do whatever you want
if you repent.
Right. Yeah. And so Paul says like everything is permissible, but not everything is beneficial.
Right.
So you can do things that will hurt you. Yeah, you'll be forgiven for them, but they're not going to, help you.
Right.
But regarding the hell view, like I think if you look at what the Bible says specifically, it actually doesn't teach eternal conscious torment. What it actually teaches about the fate of people who don't believe is that they will not exist.
Right.
It's called annihilation, which is that. So
so you won't know the difference.
Yeah, exactly. So people who are saved get heaven, and people who don't want to be saved just cease to exist in the afterlife.
I want to be saved then.
Me too. I mean, although at the same time, non-existence doesn't seem that bad either.
No, it's nothing.
Right?
You won't know. It's nothing.
You wouldn't know. And so
have you ever done mushrooms?
Yeah, it's how I became a Christian.
Is it really?
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah, I was raised in a non-Christian home. At 17, I did 10 grams of magic mushrooms.
10 grams?
Yeah.
I only did 4. That was like my max. Yeah.
And I did 10 grams, and then...
Ego death.
And then that's how I, like, met God.
Wow.
And it's like it's the reason why, despite, like, my issues with church, like, I continue... Like, I'm a God guy through and through. It, like, flicked a switch in me, like, deep.
Right.
That, like, I can't unsee it.
Hey, that's fair.
You know?
I respect that.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. It's like, I feel like Christianity generally gets kind of a bad rap, but when you say you became a Christian after 10 grams of magic mushrooms, people are like, okay, you earned it.
Yeah.
Right. And so, and I think for me, I find a lot of people seem to respect it more because I wasn't raised in it. So it's something that I came to myself. So people seem to have a little bit more respect for that than if you just kept going along with what.
If it was, your heritage, it's different.
Yeah, but no, I wasn't raised in a
fluent, not native.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, and I think like mushrooms and psychedelics, it just gives you, that's why, like, I think the reality of like what God is, or if there's an afterlife or another plane of existence or something like that, I think it's just so much more deep and complicated than anything that we can possibly try to understand or communicate. And I feel like the Bible or other religious teachings are just ways trying to navigate what that reality is in a way that we can understand it.
Well, you know what? In regard to that, I hope that there's an afterlife, but I don't think there will be. There is one.
No.
So I'd love to be proven wrong. I would love to be proven wrong.
I think I think when it comes to like the afterlife stuff, I think even Christians will be surprised.
Yeah.
That's what I kind of think. Like, I think it's different than what we think. Like, I feel almost more compelled, as stupid as it sounds, when I hear like people who have near death experiences. I feel like the things that they talk about ring more true than, like, when the book of Revelation talks about heaven having streets of gold that are clear as glass.
Is it Revelations that has the descriptions of the angels as well?
Yes.
Have you seen
with the eyes and the wings?
Have you seen on TikTok? Like they have like people's illustrations, like animations, even animated illustrations.
Yeah.
And you're like, those things are terrifying.
Yeah.
They are. Like like you said, the rings of eyes, and then like the multi-wing and then
multiple limbs, multiple eyes. Yeah, they're crazy. And so
no wonder they're jealous of us.
Yeah, you guys look fucked.
Yeah. We look like God.
Right? So they're and that's
even
the thing,
this,
though.
like,
So
come on.
Yeah, that's Would you rather have wings or be fat?
I'd rather be fat. Yeah, I'd rather be fat every time because it means I get to eat the cool stuff.
Oh man. Yeah, I don't know. I find the whole thing fascinating and confusing, and it's almost that description of angels feels more realistic to me in a sense, right? Opposed to like a cherub or just a guy with wings and a head. It's far more intriguing. Because it's so crazy and outlandish, it makes it almost more believable.
Yeah.
Right?
What if the Greys are angels?
I cannot for the life of me find it, but I listened to this podcast, and basically what we call gray aliens were described in like a science fiction book in the 1800s.
Yeah.
Like this is what makes me
what
not
if they're
believe
just taking the shape that's the closest that they can get to us.
Well, I just don't think. I think grays are a thing that have like permeated our culture, but they're not real.
Really?
Like,
you think they're mythology?
No, I think some like literally a science fiction author made up what we think of as grays in the 1800s,
or maybe
and
it's just first to discuss them.
No. He didn't discuss them as being real.
Okay.
It was a work of fiction. Like it wasn't like I saw
what
this.
Book is that? Do you know?
This is what I'm trying to say. I listened to this podcast about the origin of the grays.
Yeah.
And this is where it comes from. It's not like it doesn't come from sightings or experiences. It comes from fiction.
Right.
And the other thing is when the earliest accounts of, and this is the Christian side really coming out, because the Christian team will say these are not extraterrestrials, these are demons. That's what that's like the Christian take on aliens.
They're Oni.
Is that they're and that's why like all the stuff that's coming out now about aliens not being extraterrestrial but being interdimensional. Christians are like, told you, right? And I think the thing that lends credence to that in a sense is the fact that like they're clearly not here to help us.
I love that every culture has demons, though.
Yeah.
Like Japanese, the Oni.
Yeah.
Well, they have other ones, too. I can't remember the names of, but they have different kinds of demons.
Yeah,
it's all very fascinating.
Oh man, I mean, I think that's why I like the you like horror movies too, right?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Supernatural horror is to me like the best.
Babadook.
Those are the scariest ones.
Babadook.
That one was pretty decent.
Pretty good for a new wave horror. That was pretty good.
I mean, Paranormal Activity. The first one when I saw it before the hype machine got it.
Right.
And it was the scariest movie I'd ever seen.
What's that new one from Australia that just came out?
Oh, Talk to Me.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
Oh, great.
Yeah, I was surprised at how good that was.
There have been I got so into horror movies that now I find very few to be actually good because I've seen them all.
Okay, did you like Hereditary though?
Not when I first saw it.
Okay, did you rewatch and you liked
I rewatched.
it later?
I rewatched and liked it and appreciated it later.
Stuff.
It was just so different from what I thought I was going to get based on the trailer.
Right.
I really thought I was getting a haunted house movie with, maybe demons, maybe a witch, like Coven kind of thing.
No, it's about a boy who's grieving.
Yeah, and so it's just Hereditary was so much different than what I thought I was getting based on the trailer that I was disappointed when I walked out of the theater. But upon trying to appreciate it for what it was rather than what it wasn't, I've come to like it. Midsommar, I loved right away.
See, I didn't like Midsommar. No, I've only seen it once and I saw it in the theater.
Yeah, I loved it.
And I think it's because of like the initial scenes, like where they show, spoiler alert,
the suicide.
Because they're old suicide stuff.
Yeah.
And that to me was like, it's just gross for gross sake, rather than it being something that added to the whole experience. I know they were trying to describe this cultural difference, but it was something that they could have talked about rather than showing. Because like I don't mind a gory movie, but I like it when it has purpose. Like it didn't need to happen.
I bet it. Knowing Ari Aster, I feel like it did, but I think the other thing for him is, and if Hereditary didn't tell you this, like he likes to hit hard.
I do, yeah. I loved Hereditary. I actually liked it the first time around. I know that'll get me some flack from some people, but I'm a big Evil Dead guy for forever. Like my buddy Keith and I in high school, we used to watch Evil Dead like once a week.
Oh, really?
At one point, yeah. I saw Evil Dead 1 and 2, the musical, the last show of the first run at the Transact Club, and then the first show of the second run at the Transact Club. That's where it started, and then it became this big thing for a little while. Yeah, it was crazy, like all the blood and the stage glass flying off stage at you. It was so fun.
I mean, I like the Evil Dead remake. I even thought that one was
the new
good.
One was good. The second one was.
I didn't watch that one, although it did seem to be well reviewed.
Yeah, it just didn't fit with Evil Dead for me. Whereas the first one did more. I know that they're trying to make a departure from it to a certain extent. I like Deadites, and I wanted to see Deadites.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I didn't really get my wish as much as I'd like. Maybe I should rewatch it. I don't know. Maybe I'm judging it harshly.
There's so many movies
much
to
stuff
watch.
Yeah.
I thought Smile was decent. I thought that was.
I tried to watch. I guess I was in the wrong mood at the time. I watched 5 minutes and I turned it off. And I figured I'll watch it later at some point.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I've heard it's good though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Back to some of the stuff we were talking about before. The whole religion versus homosexuality thing. It hits my family especially hard because my dad's uncle, so my great uncle, was lobotomized in the 50s for being gay.
Whoa.
Yeah. And
really?
He lost the part of his brain that felt temperature, and one night he went out and it was too cold. He left his house with just like an overcoat or what do you call that, shower coat? What's that called?
Like a house coat?
A house coat, yeah. And went down the street and froze to death.
Oh.
So that was, it's kind of hits us a little bit harder, I guess, because of personal experience. But I can also understand why people would feel the way they do based on, being raised in a system that teaches that.
Well, and it's I'll probably get flack for this, but I feel like it's almost like the gay community emphasizes these things to kind of stick its finger in the eye of religious people, in the sense of, like, why does the Pride Parade have naked people?
Yeah.
Right? Like, like, if you can't be countercultural and culturally mainstream at the same time.
Yeah.
You can't want to be accepted by society and then put on a parade you can't bring kids to.
Yeah.
And I think in that sense it's harmed the gay community because
they were subject matter.
Well, I think it's more the sense of, I feel like they're, and maybe even rightfully so, responding to how they were treated by, you know, religious people and conservative culture. And so they're like, well, fuck it. If that's how you're going to treat us, then we're going to be ourselves. We're going to be different. But then because of that difference, it's making it harder to reconcile now.
Right.
From both sides.
I can see that.
You know?
I think that particular detail is interesting because, well, first of all, I think that their sexuality is supposed to be for adults in this particular case, especially since, you know, the naked parade has been happening since, you know, the 80s essentially.
Okay.
Or 90s, I can't remember. But also it's you know, we're the same as you. These are our parts.
Yeah.
I think it's a demonstration because it's not necessarily
I don't want to see anyone's
sexual.
parts.
Well, yeah, but you're a prude. So
that I am.
I'm just kidding.
No, that's fine.
Yeah,
I don't.
I'm a never nude, so I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your little jean shorts.
Your little jean shorts the whole time. I shave my head for that. Yeah. I Tobias it.
Oh man.
Oh man. No, I get the argument against it, but I also think it's a detail rather than looking at the greater picture.
Well, I mean, ultimately, what we want is like some sort of thing where people can be happy, safe, and accepted. I think that's what ultimately we want. It's just it's just odd that, you know, when somebody like comes out, the life that it's not like they're, you know, having a partner, finding a partner, getting married, and moving to Markham and adopting a baby. Right. Like that doesn't seem to be what's happening.
No.
And so because it's countercultural, it's always going to be at odds in a sense.
But there are those people too.
There are not a lot.
No, not compared to the mass, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah. And back to something you were saying earlier about the difference between gay men and gay women, you know, from my experience, and this is strictly from my own personal experience, I've noticed that gay men are very focused on sex. And that's probably something that straight men can relate to.
Yes.
Because we are sexually driven creatures. Whereas gay women are much more interested in companionship. And there is sex, and there's very sexually driven gay women as well. I don't want to deny anybody out there listening to this potentially. But I think that moreover, the majority would be much more, I want to find a partner.
Yeah.
And that's fair. You know, I personally somewhere reside in the middle. Like I want to bang a lot, but I also want to have my best friend. You know what I mean? And maybe that comes from being raised in the situation that I was. You know, because you know, as of age 8, I was forced to see this.
Yeah.
And then as of, you know, age 14, it was homogenous.
Yeah.
You know, it was all over. It was pervasive.
Yeah.
And I had no way to avoid it.
Do you think that because I had Joe Arsenal on and we were talking about it, do you think that the society caught up faster than you thought they would?
I don't think they've caught up yet.
No,
I don't think so. People are very surprised when they hear my story, for instance.
Okay.
And I'm sure that, well, growing up, there was nobody like me. Nobody with my situation.
Yeah.
It was very isolating. But I'm sure that there are plenty of kids today being raised in a very similar, if not the same situation.
Well, my roommate in Bible college, his dad was gay.
Right.
Came out, and it was
his mom gay too?
No. But it for him it was very isolating because he at the time was still in the church, and it was shameful. Like you couldn't tell anybody. Yeah. Like, oh, my dad's gay, destroyed our family. Yeah. Like, there's nobody to talk to you about, and it was actually me who was like encouraging him to like try to have a relationship with his dad, right? To try to like reconcile that, you know. But yeah, like it was for him and his family, it was incredibly tough because it was just like your dad is gay, right? Like it was almost unheard of.
Totally.
And it's in the church and in church culture, it was incredibly difficult.
I'm sure he got shunned by quite a few people.
Yeah, I mean, in Bible college, it was better because it was everybody was different. Like
and young people.
Yeah, but at his own church, I'm sure it was. I don't think that they could show their faces thereafter.
Yeah, that's really tough.
Yeah,
to be exiled from your community is
and that's
another form of death.
Yeah, and that's why people hide it. That's why people, hide their, if you believe in evolution or you have a different view about hell or something like that. Right. And that's the thing about evangelicalism, and is that there's a very kind of strict rule. Like these are the things that we believe, and if you if you're not on board, then you're kind of out.
I believe in evolution, and I think originally it was because it's cool. is a really neat thing to think that things turn from one thing into another thing over the course of eons.
Yeah.
I think that's really interesting. But I also don't think that we know enough about it yet to really understand why the things happen in the way that they do, natural selection or not, right?
Yeah, well, and the other thing is that we still don't have a solid theory about abiogenesis, how we went from non-living matter to living matter, like how the first cell came to be. We have no idea.
A couple of proteins of each
well,
other.
but that's the thing. So you're probably referencing the Miller experiment, where it was like they took these gases that they thought the early Earth would have been comprised of and ran electricity through them, and it formed some proteins. And they
It's
thought
so long ago that it's all so theoretical that there's no way for us to know right
that's
yet.
the thing, though.
Yeah.
So that experiment produced these proteins. They're like, oh, look, we did it. And then our understanding of what early Earth's atmosphere was changed, and they did the same experiment.
It didn't work,
and no proteins were produced.
No.
But the Miller, even though that had been debunked, they were still putting the Miller experiment in textbooks.
Yeah.
Right. And so this is on the Christian team. People were like, see, they're lying.
Oh, of course. Yeah. I want to go to some museums of creationism in the States.
They're wild.
Sounds fun.
Yeah. There's a guy. Oh, if you want to see some great videos, there's a guy named Kent Hovind. So I became a Christian, not being in a Christian family.
Right.
So when I became a Christian, I was just like, well, I still assumed that evolution was true. I just said like, well, God did it. Right. I was like, I was perfectly comfortable with that.
Maybe he did.
Yeah,
or
well,
it
maybe,
did. Or whatever.
and then I go and hang out with some of my new Christian friends, and they show me these videos about why evolution is true. And I was like, Christians don't believe in evolution. And like that, I didn't know that was like part of the thing. And so,
but not all Christians. Not all Christians.
Not all, but I mean, I bought into it for
Yeah.
a time. I was like, okay, evolution's not true. And I like researched the crap out of it.
I think Unitarian in particular, they believe in.
Yeah. Again, they're one of those ones that like the mainstream, we were like, they don't believe in
I think that they realize that Christianity is losing people. And they're like, let's just take it to its base level so that we can get more people back in here.
But I find, I think the stats are a lot of the progressive churches don't hold on to people because they lack the mysticism and the austereness that like you would find in a Catholic church or an Orthodox church.
It's the myrrh.
It's
the frankincense.
I think it's almost like their desire to get people in the doors is so obvious. It's like, hey, we put the rainbow flag up. We're being inclusive. Like it's so obvious that you just
you're
want
talking about the Metropolitan Community Church of Toronto.
Yeah, but they're the ones that I mean, some of them are mainstay churches. They'll always have people, but yeah, I think more this might be a U.S. phenomena,
right?
But it's just obvious that they want to get people in the door, and it's.
Do you know the MCCT, the Metropolitan Community Church of Toronto?
I think I may have been there once.
So my dad and my stepdad went there for a very long time. I don't think they go any. I don't even know. Maybe they still do.
Yeah.
But yeah, you go in and they have rainbow flags up, and it's the all accepting, gay focused, all faiths accepting church, and they do the body and the blood, and they do several rituals that I would not have expected. They don't expect you to do it. They're just like, if you want to do it, you can do it.
Yeah.
And so I've eaten some crackers and drank some wine for sure.
Which is crazy because like in a regular church they're pulling their hair out hearing that.
No, I'm sure they are, but
because you're not supposed to do communion unless you're a believer.
Yeah, well, maybe that day I believed. Maybe
for that time.
Maybe in that moment.
You're like, it's what's that song? Walking in Memphis.
yeah.
I am tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that that's sacrilegious to some, but at the same time, I'm not hurting anybody. Like it doesn't hurt anything. It's just what is this about? Let's try this out.
Yeah, I think having a Christian background, it made me sensitive to other practices. Like I remember I can't remember what the event was, but they were doing the smudge, smudging.
Oh yeah, the
with the sage and stuff like that, and you're supposed to waft it into your face. And I remember like this is I refrained from doing it.
I've done it.
Yeah.
I've done a sweat.
Yeah.
I went and did a full sweat lodge with some friends from NA. We had several indigenous people in NA, and so one of them led this sweat lodge.
Yeah.
And it's like this low dome covered in like plastic bags and stuff to keep the heat in.
Yeah.
And then you have this bonfire outside, and you get naked except for your boxer shorts.
Yeah.
And you go in, and the floor, there's a ring, like in the middle, there's like a recess.
Yeah.
and the outer ring is covered in cedar.
Oh, okay.
And the magic of the cedar is if you start to like feel like you're hyperventilating during this thing, because they close the entryway. If you start to feel like you're hyperventilating, you just put your face down near the cedar, and it's thermogenic, so it actually feels cooler and allows you to like get rid of the panic and start to breathe normally again. It's an interesting thing. Yeah, if you're ever out, you see cedar, take some and just put it up to your face and see what it feels like.
I've been wanting to do like all sort. Like I want to do a float tank sometime, and
I want to do that too.
Right, and acid.
My buddy Ryan has like passes to.
Oh, really?
Tank. Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, Ryan Sim.
Oh yeah.
Ryan Sim. Yeah, he's my best buddy. But when you're inside of the thing, they're taking you through. I don't remember most of it, but I just remember like, they open up the hatch. And then there's a guy outside with a shovel, and he just grabs stones from inside of this big bonfire. And if it comes in whole, it's Mashomas, which is the grandfather. And they put them in that recess in the middle, and it heats up the place, right?
Yeah.
And so you thank Mashomas, and they go through some prayers and everything else. And then they grab another one, and if it's broken, it's the grandmother. It's Nikomas, the grandmother, and they put it inside. So it's like the hole and the broken. I'm like, why would they choose it that way? Isn't it interchangeable? I don't know.
Yeah, that's interesting.
But it felt like a spiritual experience. Like I felt like I came out of there in a way reborn.
Yeah.
Because I was doing this with a bunch of guys who were going through recovery, were trying their hardest, had various understandings of higher power.
Yeah.
Which was really interesting. And we all just wanted good things for each other.
Yeah.
And I think that energy somehow permeates the space and gets into you. But it could just be that we were all in a sauna.
Yeah.
And we walked out of a sauna and we went from hot to cold.
Yeah.
That's the possibility too, and all the endorphins it gives you and everything else, right? Because they talk about cold plunges now and what that does for you and how it raises your testosterone. And yada, yada, yada.
Yeah. I like a good cold shower.
Do you?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. I find it really wakes me up. I find it's really, I do it a lot.
I do not.
No,
I'm a warm, mothering, beautiful shower.
I start with hot. Hot, but then I'll do 2 minutes of like as cold as I can stand it.
But do you graduate down or you just go like cold?
Yeah, I'll just cold.
Really?
Yeah.
Don't you get like shocked by that? Doesn't it like make your heart race?
Yeah, but I think that's kind of like it's good for your brain to do something you don't want to do that you know is going to be painful.
It's for discipline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like the only discipline thing I can do.
Right.
Sounds good. Then I'll make my
There's
bed.
somebody somewhere listening to this going, they can have hot and cold showers?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and yeah, that's right. It's such a I can't remember who did the bit, but somebody was just like, that white people have it too good when they're like they need to make their life more difficult to make it better.
Yeah. We've gone past the point.
We need to do like cold plunges and like doing CrossFit. Like
we don't have to worry about food anymore. What are we gonna do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like we're so dependent on the supply chain, though. I feel like something could get fuck things up, and then we're screwed. Especially in Canada. We still have food.
We still have macaroni and cheese if we want it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Macaroni and cheese. KD. Like how long would it take for the North American supply of craft dinner to run out? It's not a literal question.
That's a good question.
It's not.
I don't know. You think it would last us forever?
Yeah, it would last us forever. That and Twinkies, right? Twinkies and KD.
They should have that in like the Terminator movies, in the future. John Connor just sitting around like a fire eating craft dinner.
Yeah. He's got the white cheddar one time. He's like, this is a good day. This is gonna be a good day.
The wagon wheel pasta.
The wagon wheel. Stay away from the pepperoni.
It's a special day.
Someone bought my dad as a gift when I was a teenager a box of pepperoni. It's penis-shaped pasta.
Yeah.
And when he was away in Italy this one time, I ate it. It was good.
It's weird how your parents can ruin things. Like all the time growing up, my dad wouldn't buy regular craft dinner. He would buy the President's Choice white cheddar.
Yeah.
Craft dinner.
But you just wanted the regular.
I just want the regular. I want that tang of the fake cheese.
Yeah.
With ketchup. I like ketchup on it.
We're not allowed to have KD in my house.
Really?
My girlfriend hates the smell of it, but it's echoed down from her mother. She's got like interesting, very specific tastes, and you can't cross that because they're so sensitive, etc.
Are there food things that are like make or break for a relationship for you?
I once thought that cheese would be, but we don't really have cheese in the house, so it's not really.
Like I thought, like I've actually had the thought of like, what am I gonna do if I have a child who's allergic to peanut butter?
Really?
Like, I don't know.
Would you kill the kid or would you eat the peanut butter?
Cross my mind.
Get rid of peanut butter. No, you'd get rid of the peanut butter.
I mean, I'm sure I would have.
Do you eat peanut butter every day? Like when?
Yeah.
Wow.
No, maybe not every day, but yeah,
Every other.
like to say goodbye to Reese and stuff. Like
Reese's?
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't they call them Reese's in some places in the States?
Maybe.
Reese's
But
Pieces?
I don't. Reese's
Pieces.
Pieces. Gross.
Oh, why did I go there? That was weird. No, but Reese I could do without. It's too sweet. I find it too sweet for what it is. But I do like the Kraft crunchy peanut butter. I will use that.
Yeah. A good old peanut butter sandwich. Classic.
Oh, my God.
Can't do without.
Yeah.
I feel like we're over an hour. But this has been good.
Was there anything you wanted to loop back on?
No, I mean, like this felt like
science?
this was a great one. It felt like a very natural conversation.
Because we like each other.
I know.
Yeah.
That's what I told myself after. It's always more awkward. Like I've had people in here who I don't really know.
Yeah.
And it's I find I need to be more prepared for
You're
those
a reporter
ones.
for those.
Yeah, I'm a formal kind of interviewer, but I like these types of conversations.
Me too.
Way
good.
more. Well, I think I'm going to be on your show in a month or so.
I think next month, yeah.
And best of luck with your
you're on with Kenny
tour.
Robinson.
Oh, I'm so excited to
That's
meet
gonna
him.
be fun. Yeah, he's a good guy.
Yeah, great. So I've heard. I've never met him. I'm so looking forward to that show to meet him. And yeah, best of luck on your tour. And like,
Thank you.
thanks for coming on and being very open. Like I feel like you kind of have the kind of upbringing and things who have happened to you that kind of some people would just want to lock away. And I think it's
35 years of therapy.
Yeah, and I think it's good. Well, I think it's good when we're kind of open with our brokenness because we all are.
Well, it can't really hurt you.
No, and so yeah, it
can trigger you, but it can't really hurt you.
Yeah. So thanks for coming on. Thanks for watching, everybody, and
thank you.
we'll see you next time.
All right.